I will intend to record. Mr. Williams has given us permission to record this session, so thank you. You can also visit our K-SPAN website, which is www.safekentucky.org, and that's Safe Kentucky all spelled out. And if you look under the Injury Data tab, you'll find Kentucky injury data at the county level that is updated routinely. We have injury-related inpatient hospitalization data, ED data, and mortality data through 2020. We also have a section that provides injury prevention briefs, and I'm going to put those in the chat box as well real quick. Or I'll do that while Mr. Williams is getting started, because I think that's really why you're here. So I'll do that in just a few minutes, but please check out the chat box. We have an hour scheduled for the meeting today, but Mr. Williams has generously agreed, if there's interest, to stay a little longer to answer any questions. So if you're available and you want to talk to Mr. Williams toward the end, please stay on the line, and we'll both be here, and we'll keep things open, and we can cover whatever questions you have. It's my pleasure to please make sure if you have questions to put them in the chat box periodically throughout the presentation. When he's making a transition, we'll try to get those questions answered. So thank you. I think Dr. Ashley Bush is online as well, and if she would like to, I need to promote her to the panelist. I think I did it, Ashley. Sorry about that. Yep, Ashley's with us now too. And she is the PI on our project. And Ashley, do you have any words you wanted to say?
No, thank you, Steve, for putting this together. And thank you, Ron, for presenting. Look forward to the presentation.
Okay. So with that, I will say it's my pleasure to introduce Ron Williams, who serves as Data Dissemination Specialist with the Census Bureau. One of Mr. Williams' key responsibilities is to assist individuals and organizations with the extraction of data from the US Census Bureau. He is primarily responsible for the states of Kentucky and Tennessee. Mr. Williams has over 25 years of service as a federal employee. He has an extensive background in education, data analysis, and data dissemination. Mr. Williams became an educator in 1992 and has been actively engaged in education ever since. Mr. Williams and his wife make their home in Nashville, Tennessee, a beautiful part of the country. So with that, Mr. Williams, thank you.
Steve, thank you so much. I truly appreciate that introduction. Let me see if I can throw these slides up real quick. Steve, can you see these slides?
Yes, I can see them.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, everybody. As you can see, my name is Ron Williams. There's my title. I have to go ahead and share this with you. I've not shared this with Steve. I wanted to hold it till today. But as soon as he said what this group was, I immediately jumped at this opportunity to speak with you. Growing up, my father worked in a plant that made stainless steel sinks. And you talk about a dangerous, dangerous environment. Literally, people punched holes in their hands with the presses that would push through and make the holes in a stainless steel sink. And you can imagine the amount of force it takes to go through that steel and what it would do to a hand. And I remember one day my dad came home telling me about how he had picked up the plug of a person's hand and it had taken out the 3 middle fingers on their left hand, because they crawled into the machine to look and see how it worked. And there were no safety devices, or they had been disabled. I don't remember which. But one of the other fun things is we lived about 2 miles from the plant, and the furnaces were hydrogen fueled. And anytime, this was in Arkansas, anytime we had a power outage, normally storms and tornadoes, just like Kentucky, the furnaces would go out and they'd have to relight them. And usually that was my dad's job. And when they would relight them, he would come home laughing that he no longer had eyebrows, because when they went off, even though we lived a couple miles away, we could hear the furnaces relit because of that hydrogen explosion. Great times growing up. And working with a group like yours, guys, you don't know how much I appreciate what you do. And I guess you could say I'm a fan of your work. So, Steve, I've held that back from you, but that's, if you're wondering, why did he say yes so quickly? That's why, is I like what you guys do and I truly appreciate it. And this is what we're going to try to cover today. This is meant to be an introduction. The things I'm going to cover are, well, if we tried to cover it all in an hour, it would be the analogy of drinking from a fire hose. So we're not going to do that. I'm going to show you a few simple steps to get you started. I'll make sure that you know how to reach me and we'll go from there. But I am more than happy to do workshops with groups, teams, individuals, whatever you need. I feel that passionate about what you guys do and your goals. And so please don't hesitate to reach out to me, even as an individual. And with that said, I believe you can see Census Bureau is doing over 130 surveys a year. Those are the top 3 that are up there. We just completed the decennial last year. I found out earlier this week that Kentucky had 100% of the households of Kentucky were contacted for the decennial. That contact was either a letter or someone actually knocking on the door, which I just found amazing. The last thing is the Census Bureau's motto. You'll see it says people and economy. We're actually part of the Department of Commerce. We have a tremendous amount of economic data. So just keep that in mind, that they're part of the Department of Commerce, not just data on people. They have a lot of economic data. Well, as we move forward, I need to point out a couple of differences between the American Community Survey and the decennial that I already mentioned. The American Community Survey is our largest ongoing survey. It actually goes to 3% or a little over 3% of all of the households in the United States every year. And so it creates estimates instead of where you have the decennial gives you a official number. There are 318 people living in this town. With the American Community Survey, they'll say, well, we believe there's 320 plus or minus 10 living in this town. So that's why there's estimates and the official numbers. American Community Survey creates phenomenal estimates because they only release data down to the level that they're positive that it's accurate. Now, I mentioned down to the level. That becomes the geography, and that is extremely important in what we're going to cover. With the ACS and decennial, I created this. This is, if it's not any good, it's my fault. If you like it, okay, fine. Anyway, but you can see those are some differences between the American Community Survey or ACS and the decennial census. A couple of these things I've already mentioned, but I want to bring your attention down to the bottom where it says new data every year or every 10 years. With the American Community Survey, remember it's going to over 3 million households a year. So that's why you get this continuous flow of data. And those estimates are released every year, where the decennial data is only released once every 10 years. So that's another difference there, is that the ACS gives you the equivalent of watching a movie over a 10-year period, where the decennial took a picture. So if you're sitting, I'll say you're sitting on the UK campus and you're just outside the ROTC building, which is nice if you've never been there. A lot of trees, shaded, good place to sit. Not that I've ever been there, but yes, it's a beautiful place. You can sit there and there's a bridge not far, and you can take a picture of that footbridge and you can count the number of people in the picture. Well, with the American Community Survey, it's like taking a movie over a 10-year span, and you'll notice that people move in and move out of the area. So that's a good way to look at when you're trying to count. With the decennial, what you're able to actually see are people are born, people die, and people move. And this is the official number on this date. Well, I've spent a lot of time on this to finally get to the area it's in gray that says plus or minus 65,000. Since the American Community Survey is only going to 3% or more of the US households every year, and those estimates, when you start moving down to smaller and smaller geographies, that means fewer and fewer people in that area actually receive the survey. So Steve and I were talking about some of the beautiful parts of Kentucky, which I really enjoy traveling the state. But I love going out in the Floyd County area. If you go out in the Floyd County area, it's uh, the definition of rural truly applies. It's just a beautiful place, not a lot of people. And in a year, you might have 2 households in that area that receive the American Community Survey. You go to somewhere like Louisville, and in the exact same geographic area, we'll say the county level, there might have been 30,000 receive the survey. So that's why they put that plus or minus 65,000 people based on the geography. So state level, yeah, you're going to find one estimates every single year. If you're looking below a population below 65,000, your estimates are going to come out for what they call 5-year estimates. Think of a 5-year span, and that's what the estimates are going to be based on. But remember, that data is very, very accurate. Now, I've mentioned geography a few times. This looks complicated, and it is. But look at the very center, nations, regions, states, counties. What you have is the equivalent of a Russian nesting doll. Within the nation, there's regions, and within the regions, there's states. Within the states, there's counties. Within the counties, there's census tracts. The tracts don't cross county lines. The block groups are within the tracts. The block groups don't cross tract lines, and the census blocks do not cross block group lines. And you'll notice now that we're at the bottom, a couple of interesting things. The census blocks, that data is only released with the decennial. And it's because it's such a finite group. You might have a census block in which no one received an American Community Survey in the last 5 years, 10 years. That's why there's nothing from ACS. When you look at a block group, notice what they're looking at, either a population or the number of housing units. The population they're looking at there is a little over 1,000 people. That's why you end up with a band. With a tract, the optimum is 4,000. Now, a good example of that is I have a good friend that lives in Yonkers, New York. Her building has 3,100 people that live in the building. One building. So if you want an optimum of a tract being 4,000 people, and you take a pencil and try and draw a line around that, just the thickness of the pencil is probably going to catch more than 4,000 people. So that's why you have that broad range, and you'll find a few exceptions of a tract maybe less than 12 or greater than 8,000. That's where you might want to look at the number of housing units. So, but just think of those. Each one of those nest within the others. And the reason that becomes important, as you'll see in a little bit, is when we start looking at our data, that's your basis, is that you want to say, what's the geography? What are you looking at? Do you want county level data? Do you need something smaller? Do you need something larger? And that's kind of where you start your point of reference. Now, I want to mention about accessing tools. This slide looks kind of busy, but it was something that that I thought was kind of important, because there's 3 things I want to start with today. And we're not going to go in order of these, but data.census.gov in the upper left is our most frequently visited data tool in the Census Bureau. The second one is Quick Facts. That's one of our other most frequently visited tools. The last one is the COVID-19 Hub, which the COVID-19 Hub is the image you see directly below that has populations, and you have the green, you have the greens and the images, and then on the right, occupation by sex. I just took that screenshot off of that yesterday. So you can see there's a lot you can do with maps and imagery and tables. A lot of things are available. So let's move in to our demonstrations and then also our resources. And as I said, this is not going to go in a linear direction. So we're going to start with Google. And this is an introduction, folks. Please keep that in mind, that all of the tools I'm going to show you, there's a lot of depth to each one of these. I just want to get you started. So if you've never been, yes, Steve.
I just had a question
Yes, sir.
in the chat. What are the vintage estimates and how do they differ from previous estimates?
Oh, that's great. Okay, what are the vintage estimates? That comes back to our American Community Survey, or that's what I believe they're asking, is going back year by year by year. If you have the population greater than 65,000, as I mentioned, you can get yearly estimates from the American Community Survey. You can definitely go back to 2010 with the data. Some of the data are only available from 2010 on, but other data you can go back a few more years. It really depends on what you're looking for. The decennial, what they have that's easily available is 2000, 2010, and 2020. They just have to draw a line somewhere because there's a finite amount of storage space that they have on all their computer systems. And you may say, well, there's room for that right now. Well, there's going to be a lot more happening in the coming years, and they have to save space for those things as well. So there's vintage data definitely back to 2010. Going prior to 2010, that's where you run into some areas that there may be gaps and voids. Steve, does that sound okay? Okay, I'll move forward then. If you've never been to the census website, what I did is I just went to Google. You can use any search engine. Just type in the word census, hit enter. With Google, you'll notice Census Bureau is the very first thing. If you're using Bing, I've noticed in Bing, it will give you a definition of census and then it shows the Census Bureau. So just look for that census.gov. You'll find people that might go to census.org, census.com. You're going to go to the wrong place, guys. Just remember it's a government website. And when I click on this, I want you to notice I did not have to put in a username, nor did I have a password. All of this is federal open data. Steve mentioned a CDC grant. You're probably accustomed to working with federal data, but this is just amazing that it's here and you can do things with it. Now, this is the home page. As you scroll down, you'll see that there's a lot of articles, there's a lot of information that's here. I encourage you to take a look at that at some point in time. In the interest of time today, we're not going to spend, we're just not going to go there. At the top where it has browse by topic, you can see that as you hover over each one of these items, more items appear in the drop down and you can easily drop down and click on any of them. Okay. So this is something for you to explore as well at a later date, just whenever you want, or if you need me to walk you through it at another time, let me know. We're going to start with the explore data because that's our intent today, is to learn about data. The very first thing I'm going to take you to is the second item that says Census Academy. When I click on this, it's going to take me to the equivalent of a school. With this, you'll find data gems, you'll find webinars. There's a lot of information that's available. You'll notice on the left-hand side, join the community. This might be something you want to subscribe to because as updates come out, as different things happen, different information is learned, they'll do webinars. If you join the community, you'll get updates on that. And trust me, they don't spam you. You're not going to get 5 things a day. So just keep that in mind. We scroll down, you can see different topics, different tools. With the upper right, this was just added this week, requested data training. If you click on this, which I just did, you'll see there's a little short form for you to fill out and you can request a particular training. Now, we'll just give it a moment to load. And here's the requested training. As you scroll down, notice it's just asking for some very basic information. What's your name, what's your phone number, how do we reach you, what type of organization are you in? And then it gives you some details. When would you like to do this? What would you see the brief description there? What would you like to learn about? So this is, you think of how short this form is. What's going to happen is typically within 24 hours of submission, this is going to get to a person like myself. And then I would follow up with you. If you're in Kentucky or Tennessee, I'm definitely going to follow up with you. If you're another part of the nation, one of my counterparts will. So to get there, let me go back one more time. I went to the census homepage. I went to the Explore Data. Everything on the census website is a single click. If you double click, you may skip a page ahead. But all I did was click Explore Data and Census Academy. I mentioned Data Gems. Those are short videos. They're hosted by YouTube, so they're very short videos. They only last anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes. Wait for one to load here. Okay, here's a sample of the videos. The reason it looks like the same person every time is because with us being virtual, the same person introduces them, and then someone like myself will record a video and send them the recording and they incorporate it in it. So it's kind of like, hi, I'm Mary Leisering, and Mary has just introduced me, and you won't see me on camera, but you'll hear me speaking and see me moving my mouse around. And this is just an assortment of videos. So matter of fact, the one that's of myself here on the right, we recorded that in a hotel in DC in February of 2020. The very next week, they shut the government down. So that's why I like to point that one out. It's not because of me. It's just because it happened, the timing. The webinars that you see at the top, upcoming and recorded. As you think of things that you're interested in, don't hesitate to go to the recorded webinars. Now, this one is not going to be posted by any means. They only post the national webinars, and you can see all of the years you can go back. And just in 2021, they've completed over 3 pages of webinars. If we go back to 2020, you can see the number of pages here. If we go back to 2020, there we go. There were 3 or 4 pages then, because everything was virtual. There we go, 3 pages again. And if you click on this, what is a small business? And I just completely by random happen to stop there. What you should see is a video of the webinar. You should see a transcript and the slides. So here's the video of the webinar, and you can see it's just a YouTube video. Here are the slides, and then here's the transcript. So to get here, I'm going to click the census logo. This is a shortcut I'll share with you. If you click the census logo in the upper left, let it load here, takes you back to the census homepage. And I just want to mention how we got to that point. And so when you want to explore that a little further, hover over Explore Data, single click on Census Academy. It's just awesome how quick you can get there. But let's move to the area that you wanted to see today, and that's data. We hover over Explore Data. I would just want to show for repetition purposes, the very top thing, Explore Data Main. So I click Explore Data Main. Now I'm running off of a MiFi, a 4G MiFi, so that's why it seems a little slow, but it's just the system that I'm required to use right now. If something is in a teal box, you can click on it. If it's in teal, you'll click on it, and so it takes you to a different page. As we move down, here are data tools, and this is where we're going to focus today. It's just on this page. There's an example of tools. If you click View All Tools, it takes you to about 40 additional data tools. Visualizations, you'll see data gems on here as well. So if you forget how to get there, you can go to it from this page. But let's start. Steve, like I said earlier, I'm not going to go in a linear path. Let's start with the COVID Hub. If I click this, you'll see that it didn't start, and what happens is it loaded in. So think about this guy's in the dugout. You now put him on deck. You click go to COVID Hub, and now he's at bat. And so you're ready to play. So with the COVID Hub, there is a plethora of data that's on here and a lot of interesting things. You can see the state of Washington floods. That popped up this morning. It wasn't there yesterday. So they're doing live updates as this happens. Each one of these items you can click on, jump ahead, go to them. You can scroll down the page, and as you scroll down the page, you'll see it's just an amazing amount of information. So we're not going to spend a lot of time going down the page. We're going to stop right here at the top. I do not know why the default is New York, but we're going to change this to a different state in just a moment. I need to give it just a moment more. And underneath, now it says it. Click here to open in a dashboard. With us being in a presentation type mode, I'm opening in a dashboard just so that it fills my screen a little better and it makes it easier for you to view. So we're going to select the state of Kentucky. So I want to try to keep this as relevant as possible. When I select Kentucky, you'll see a number of geographies that pop up here. 121. Well, what you have is the state and then each county. And the counties, you can select them by clicking the arrows here at the top. You can see I skipped over to Adair. If I click the drop down, I can jump ahead. Let's say I want to go to Bourbon County. I click on Bourbon. It's going to take me to Bourbon County. So two different ways you can move to the counties. Up at the upper right where it says fit page, I'm going to change this to a different percentage just to make it a little larger. I'll change it to 90%. And you see how it changed there on my screen. Okay. You can export this and you can print it. So a lot of things you can do. And this just gives you an idea of what's on the first page. With some of the data that Steve and I have been discussing, a lot of it comes back to this type of information. We're looking at Bourbon County, population 20,058, number of households, lot. And you'll notice as I move across, things start lighting up. Nearly 100% of this is virtual. So if I click on households with disabilities at our at-risk, notice the visualization that popped up. That is for the county. Up at the top, you can export it or print it. If I click close and I go to households population over 65, that's what you see. But if I go to poverty data, you'll start seeing that the numbers really change and the visualizations. How is it visualized? So there's your employer revenue. Notice what you can do here is you can change what you're looking at. You can change how you want it sorted. Once again, export and print. A vast amount of data that's available. Remember, this is a COVID-19 hub, but I think it may be some things that you can use, and in particular, page 2. So click the drop down, go to page 2, or you can click the arrows. And this is something that I thought would really be of interest to you, is the data here on school enrollment, which would show something like your education attainment, population with no health insurance, which is something Steve specifically mentioned to me not long ago, was uninsured individuals. And you can see right here, we have it broken down by age group. If I click on 35 to 64, notice that I can take that and I can manipulate it. So great little tool. I'm not going to go into each different section, but I want you to see how easy it is to navigate. It's called the Census or the COVID-19 Hub. And we got there simply by going to, I'm going to go back and make sure I cover this again, simply by going to our Explore Data main, and then we scroll down the page. So Explore Data main, and we scroll down the page. Now, another question that has come up often, or Steve, was there a question since I'm going to shift to another tool at this time?
I don't have any additional questions
Okay,
at this time,
great.
but if anyone does have one, put them in the chat, please.
So now we're back on that page where we started a few minutes ago. And I'm really trying to focus here, guys, because I want to make this as easy as possible. This tool, Quick Facts, I mentioned earlier, is one of our more frequently visited tools. And one of the great things about this is you can embed this on your website. You can share this data. You can send it however you want. And if you watch the URL as we go across, you'll see it change. And I'll point that out again, because notice how short it is. And right here in the center, it says US. That becomes important. So we're looking at United States. Great, wonderful. That doesn't pertain to me. So let's change this to something like Fayette. And as I start typing it in, what am I looking for? Well, down here is Fayette County, Kentucky. So with just a couple of letters, you'll see that it popped up. I can pull up Fayette County. You'll notice to the right, it still says United States, but there's a blue X. I can take that out. And if I want to compare this to the state of Kentucky, I can do that. We can continue to add, we can have up to 6 separate geographies at one time. You can also put in something like a town. Okay, you can see as I start typing in Bowling Green. And now I have a city, a county, and a state. And notice what they did is they went in the order in which I added them. So if you don't like the sequence, just change the way in which you added them. You have a little over 60 items that were just populated for you. The very first thing is that estimate. But if we look down, here's the 2020 official numbers. I clicked on it, and so it is now moved up here to the very top item. So officially for 2020, Bowling Green has a population of 72,294. Fayette, 322,570. State of Kentucky, 4.5 million. You can see what it was in 2010, 2020. All of this was pre-populated for you, so you don't get a lot of versatility. But when we move into data.census.gov in a few minutes, you're going to see where you can really manipulate this and get exactly what you're looking for. But you can see there's housing, computer, education. Once again, that's something that I am definitely going to touch on today. But this gives you an idea of what's available. So there's your civilian labor force. There's business data, and at the very bottom you have geography. And if you start looking at population per square mile, you'll notice you have Fayette County. If you go to something like, let's see, I want to switch over to Edmonson. Okay. Let's go to Edmonson County, Kentucky, and I'm going to immediately scroll down to the bottom and look at our population per square mile. And notice what a difference you have there. Okay. So when we start comparing these things, becomes important. So let's take a look at what you can do next. You pulled this up, you like the population, you like mapping that item, you like to see it. I mentioned mapping. If I click map, it's going to ask me what's my point of reference to all of the counties, cities, or states. I'll start with Edmonson County. If you've ever been there, you'll fall in love with that area. It's just north of Bowling Green. Wonderful place to go. A great little high school there. As you can tell, I love Kentucky. I've tried to drive as many miles in the state as possible. We have a color-coded map here. And if I click on this, there's the population of the county. If I click on Hart County, click on it, there's the population of Hart County. If I no longer want to work with the populations, at the top where it says select a fact, I can click the drop down, and let's change this to persons under 5 and percents. Once again, I'm going to have a color shaded map, and you'll notice Warren County changed. Only 6.5 is under 5. But Logan, let's wait for Logan to load here, 6.5. And if I go to Todd, 7.4. Well, if we know what's located here, which is Fort Campbell, Kentucky, you have a lot of young soldiers that move in. And notice how the dark lines are there. If we move up toward Hardin County, which now you have Fort Knox, 6.7. We go to Boyle, and you can see how quickly I'm seeing this and adding it. So I really like this. We had Fayette a little while ago. I can click here, see what I'm comparing to. So great little tool. I like it. I see a lot of use in it. If you're a real data nerd and you like to see things laid out, we'll start with Fayette this time. If you like to see things laid out a little easier for you to visualize an entire map, you can go to the chart. The geographies you've selected are going to be at the top. You can see Fayette and Edmonson because we're looking county level. As you scroll down, you can start seeing the bands. And remember, we're now looking at the top of this chart, persons under 5 years percent. So that's what we're looking at. We can easily change the fact just by clicking the drop down, but we're going to stick with this right now so I don't get too confusing. Here is as for me, the best part of this tool is in the upper right. You see where it says the word dashboard. If I click on dashboard, I'll click the state of Kentucky. I now have a color shaded map, based on persons under 5. Here's the map, here's a table, and below this is a chart. You can have all of this on a single page, and simply by clicking on, I'll do households with a computer. Give it a moment to render the data. And now you can see Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas. We have a lot of states in here that compared to other states, do not have as many homes with the computer. So great little tool. And you're thinking, okay, now look at our URL at the top. You see what happened to it? It changed. As we've added different places, that URL has changed. So what am I going to do with it? Well, in the upper right where it says more, I can print this. It comes out as an Excel spreadsheet. It's, pretty much basics to what we have. I can put it in a zip file. You can email this, embed it into your website. I would hope some of you would, libraries heavily use this. And what they'll do is they'll put in just their county or just their zip code, something along those lines, and they embed it. And then when people visit that area, figuratively visit the area, namely electronically, then they're able to see and gather the data they want. And you can see other ways to do this. So I love working with Quick Facts. It's a great little tool. It's a good place to go to get started. But that's not, once again, that's another tool that we have at our disposal. So I'm going to go back to the census homepage. As I transition, Steve, any questions on Quick Facts? Okay, so I'm going to move on a little bit here. Let me go to Explore Data. Explore Data main. Okay. With this, I give it just a moment to open the page, and at the very top, go to data.census.gov. Now, remember when we started, I said this is just an introduction. It's meant to get you started thinking and give you a starting point. So if I click on go to data.census.gov, notice you have something that looks like a Google search. Now, there's a lot on this page that you can explore, but I'm trying to keep this, for time's sake, because we have 20 minutes left. So I want to start with the Explore Data. If I go here and I type in something like population and hit enter, or I can click on any of the items that popped up, I can go population in Kentucky. So you can put in a strand of words. You can put in a single word. So think of it as a Google search, and you can see there's various counties just to give you ideas. If I click on this population in Kentucky, which I did, I just clicked on it. Notice what it took me to is an interactive map. You see I can click it, move it around. As I scroll down, there are points of data already provided for me, different visualizations, which you can see these are bar charts. Come on down and we'll start seeing other things that are available. If I click view options on any of these, I can display the margin of error, or I can share and export each one of these individual items. This is based on the American Community Survey. See this sector? At the bottom, it says American Community Survey 1-year estimates. We're looking at the state of Kentucky. It has more than 65,000 people. That's why you have 1-year estimates. If we went back to Edmonson County, which had less than 65,000, we would have 5-year estimates. So that's where that becomes important. If you're wanting to compare the state of Kentucky and Edmonson County, make sure you're looking at the same thing, either a 5-year estimate or the data from the decennial. Here's commuting information. Next, well, what if I want to skip ahead to race and ethnicity? I can just click on that. It jumps ahead. Notice now I have a map, shows all the counties, so I can see where my populations are. This is showing American Indian, Alaska Native, because we clicked on race and ethnicity. Here's your Asian population, your Black or African American, Hispanic, Latino. So you can see the pockets in your states of different ethnicities, different races. Okay. Wonderful little tool as you go to it. And then you can skip to the other nearby states. If you want to go back to the top, you can select one of these, or you can just, click the back button. And that's what I'm going to do at this time. I'm going to click back. I've mentioned we call this the single search, sometimes the simple search. And that's where you put in a couple of keywords. Well, believe it or not, you're able to go now to what they call the advanced search. Please do not let that name intimidate you, because it really should say filtered search. I'm going to click on it, and what you're going to see are a series of filters. Think of this as it's going to ask you questions and you answer those questions. We were looking at race and ethnicity a minute ago, and we were looking at some other items, and we saw American Community Survey and the decennial. What if I just want the decennial? Here's a great way to go there. Under years, click 2020. Under surveys, click decennial. Scroll down, you need to check a box. And if I check this box and just click search, I'm looking for 2020 data. Let's start with race. Okay, it gave me the United States. That's not what I want. I want to know about Kentucky. I can scroll across here and get to Kentucky, or what I can do is simply click on Customize Table in the upper right, and you'll see there's a series of options just above this data table. The third one is geographies. I'm going to change this to state of Kentucky. You got to check a box, and if I click close, notice I just have data on Kentucky. What if I want to bring in a different county? I can click the geography, I can change the county, and let's go back to Kentucky again. I think I want to choose, let's go with Adair. Let's go with Allen. I know where Allen is really well. It's a county that I've visited frequently just because of proximity to the state. You can see there is the total population of the county, and there is Kentucky. With this, you can continue adding as many geographies as you want. The limiting factor, you cannot have over 1 million cells, which you hit pretty quick with some of these tables. You cannot have an export value greater, which you can see I hovered over Excel and download. You cannot have an export value greater than 4 megabytes. Now there's those are two of the limitations. There's a few others, but I just wanted to mention that if you're trying to add geographies and suddenly you get an error message, you've probably added too many geographies, which with Kentucky, we might be able to add every county in the state. If you want to do that, go back to your geographies, and you'll notice that the very first one, all counties in Kentucky. I'm going to take out Allen. We now have all counties in Kentucky. If I click close, you can see there they are in alphabetical order. And now you can compare every single county. If you don't want all of them, you'll notice what I had is you can just uncheck that box and add in the counties that you want. I was recently working with economic development area in Kentucky. They were focused on 7 particular counties. We checked those 7 counties and did everything based on that. So you can start with the geography, you can start with the year. It does not matter. Over on the on the left-hand side, you saw the topics earlier. It does not matter which topic you start with. But now we have added in, and we'll bring back in Allen County. And you'll see it down here in the bottom. I selected geographies, and I took Allen out a few minutes ago just by clicking the X. So a lot of this is intuitive, but let's look at the tract level. So I'm going to come back to Kentucky. You have to tell it what state, what county, and then past Kentucky. You have to tell it what state, what county, and then what tract. You can choose all the tracts, but I'll take these first 3 at random. Okay? And I'm going to click close. So now I have the state, which you can have it or not, doesn't matter. The county, and here are our tracts. Remember, tracts nest within a county. They do not cross county lines. I don't have any idea where this is. What you can do is you can click map. See just above the table, I have the word map. If I click map, it's going to take me in. It's going to take me to Kentucky here in just a moment. I'm going to push it on a little faster because it's trying to pull in data for every single tract in the nation. We're going to move it along here. Now you can see a color shaded map of Allen County. Though this is based on total population. In the upper left, if I click the drop down, I can look at, let's go with Black or African American. And now that's my Black or African American. If I want to add additional tracks, I simply click on the track, add select, or what I can do is above the map in the upper left, click the word select, and now I can draw a box and I can add in the tracks. We just pulled in that whole county, but what if I want a region? I can draw my box, bring in everything in this region, and now we see all the tracks and we see the population based on race. We're looking at tract level. We can actually change the geography simply by clicking one of the geographies on the left. And you can tell there are hundreds of geographies. But let me get back out of here. I want to go back to my data table. In the upper left, you can click the back arrow, or what you can do is you can go to table and it will take you back to the table. If you want to go back to the map, simply click map and it's going to take you right back to the map. I don't know why that's going into Kansas today. Anyway, that's kind of funny to me. I don't know why it's stuck on Kansas, but here's our map that we had generated just a few minutes ago. In a longer, now I'm gonna go kind of quick on this part. You don't have to remember. Let me show you some of the things you can do. You can change the base map. If I go to my street map, notice it added in the major roads. You can see parks, lakes, that sort of thing. On the left, if I click the gear, I can change the colors of the map simply by clicking the color palette. I can change the data classes. You can go up to 9. I'll drop it, or let's go to 3, just 3. Notice I only have 3 colors. If I want to change the breaks, you can change, you'll notice down here, the tract in the bottom right changed when I went from a quantile to a natural break. So those are the type things you can do. So don't worry about remembering that part. Just know that it's available. So let's go back to our table, because now let's focus on the data that's in the table. Here is your race breakdown for each geography. So we were talking about the county, we were talking about the tracts, and we had the state in here. So in this county, white alone, we have 19,135, and a population with reported one race is 19,690. So this is individuals in that county that said, I am white, I am black. If we come down to the next part, population of 2 or more races, I am biracial, I am black, white, I'm American Indian and white, I'm Asian, white. And you can see all the different options that they had. 3 or more races, this goes all the way down to 6, and notice how small the numbers are getting. So just keep that in mind. If you're seeing I'm getting zeros, either look at the size of the geography, which we got down to something that was very, very small earlier, or I'm getting too many. This doesn't seem right. So look at the size of the geography. A lot of times that will answer your question. Now, I've mentioned about going down to smaller and smaller geographies. I'm going to add a couple of geographies. If I click in the upper left, 13 geos, and take out the state and the county, we were looking at particular tracks. What we can do is on the left-hand side is I'm just going to keep this track 9201, which is right here. So I'm going to take out these other 2. You can either check the box or you can click the X, whichever you want to do. Okay. You can see now what I have. If I want to go down to my block group level, we can come back. Let me take that out right there. Okay. If I go down to Kentucky, boy, I just keep going past it today. Allen County, and we focus on track 9201. And I can select a block within there. Remember, if we can select it, we can map it. So here's your tracks that we had in there. And if I could click map, there we go. It's going to move in. And within that tract, these are the block groups. And I can get data for those simply by going back to the table. And we can subtract geographies. Okay, simply by clicking the numbers here, taking those out.
Ron,
Now I only have, yeah,
I do have a couple of questions that have been coming in.
yes.
Is this a good time?
Yeah, because I was about to wrap up because we saw population and race, and that was where I wanted to focus for a transition to American Community Survey. Perfect timing,
Okay.
Steve.
Is there a way to create an Excel file with the data for each county on multiple topics from the various data sources? They've made
Yes.
this table before, and they were hoping to be able to combine data from the economic surveys with the population data.
Yes. Yes. Great point. I'll tell you what, let me move in to the American Community Survey, and I'll answer that momentarily. So I'm going to clear out what I have. A great way to clear at this point is simply by clicking the census logo in the upper left. And I'm going to stop looking at decennial, and I'm going to move into, we'll go with income data. So I go to my advanced search. If I look at my topics, a little while ago, we started with the years in the surveys. I know I want income information. So I click income, or topics rather, and you'll notice that income and poverty is right up at the top. You'll notice education. That was something else I wanted to touch on. So these are a couple of big ones I wanted to touch today. So if I go to my income and poverty, I can click here, or I can click income and earnings. And now I can focus on which one do I want. Do I want individual, household? Do I want to know who's receiving some sort of assistance? And let's go with our income and earnings. So this is one of the things you can do. We need to tell it where. So let's come back and let's go to the county level, just because that's something that I believe all of us can visualize quite simply. Go down to Kentucky. Well, I'll take Adair County this time just because it'll be the first one listed. Now, if I'm saying that incorrectly, please correct me, but I learned to say it Adair, and that was from a friend of mine that lived in Rockcastle County. So it's his fault. But this is Adair County. Remember, what I'm looking at is income and earnings. If you want to add additional topics, yes, you can add those. So I'm going to click search. Notice that here, this is correlated data that's located at the top. But then you can go to the data tables. We'll just take this first one just because it was the first one listed. If we see, oh, this isn't what I want, we can click on the left-hand side, another data table, and it jumps to that data table. What if I change my mind? I want to look at SNAP. Yeah, I can do that. Here's work status in the past 12 months. With each one of these that I'm jumping to, you'll notice it says the surveyor program, American Community Survey. Here's the years that data is available. That is the actual data table name. If you find yourself coming back to data table S1901, the next time you visit data.census.gov, you can just type S1901, Adair County, and it will take you to this table. So one of those things to keep in mind. But here's our data table. You can see how it's broken down. Upper right, I'm going to click Customize Table. And when I click Customize Table, what you'll notice is it defaulted to 5-year. If we had just put in Jefferson County, it would have defaulted to 1 year. So here we are. We can add geographies, topics, which you've seen, but I'm going to move across. Everything has a margin of error when it's estimate. The larger the sample size, the smaller the margin of error. To me, that's a fairly large margin of error just because it's a small sample size. I'm going to take that out. And just simply by clicking margin of error, notice everything fits well. As we move to the right, you'll see the word Excel. If I click on the word Excel, it gives me the options between a zip file and export. If I click export to Excel, my computer, government computer always goes to the lowest bidder. I think some of you feel my pain in that because you're probably working with a state and same thing. It opened Excel. The first page are table notes. And if I click the second sheet, there's your data. So here's your Excel spreadsheet with the data from that table. So you're wanting to add more things, merge, so you can continue to add to build your spreadsheet into what you want. So here's a great little way to do it. I have Adair County. If you want to continue adding different things, by all means, yes, please do as you want to proceed. If we click download, you're going to have the options as far as a zip files, and then you can easily change the years or just add certain years. If you click download, which I won't, it just brings in a zip file. You can click print. The challenge with print is it only prints the first page. That's a known error in the system. They're trying to rectify it. Yesterday I was in a meeting where this came up and they did not have a timeline on it. So I'm sorry about that. I'll apologize for the Census Bureau. But yes, when we go to the print, that's a problem. We only get the first page. But you specifically asked about Excel. You can do that. Something that I do want to show, now I usually only put this in a workshop just about this tool, but since we had that particular question, if you click on the first item in the table, just underneath the word label, I left click. I'm using a Microsoft program, so I'll hit Control A. If you're using some sort of iOS system, you'll hit Command A, but when I press Control A, notice everything lit up on the table. If I right click on the table, I can copy this or copy with headers. If I just copy this and then open an Excel spreadsheet, show you what happens. If I drop this in here, notice I do not have the headers. So if you have headers that you like and say you want to continue adding different geographies underneath them, you can simply drop it in there wherever you want into your spreadsheet, or if you want to put this into a slide, by all means, you can see how simple it is. So two ways that you can, or it's actually three ways that we covered. One was the latest, where we clicked on the first cell, hit Control A, and then right click and exported. We did Excel and we clicked download. So this is one way that you can get into various different topics. And I want to start over because I want to touch on poverty and education. If I click advanced search, I want you to see how quick, you've already seen this. So we're just doing the repetition. If I go to my topics, income and poverty, I want to look at just poverty. I want to look at a geography. Remember, you need to tell it or you're going to get a default of the United States. I'll pick a tract. Let's go to Kentucky again. Now notice it's taking me longer to identify what I want than it does to actually get the data. So we can pick all tracts, or I'll just pick a couple. Bottom right, click search. And now I have poverty status the last 12 months for this one tract in Adair County. And you can see how much information is going across. Turn off my margin of error, and it's still wider than what I have. That much information, and you saw it took me longer to answer the questions. What do I want to know? Where do I need to know that information from? If we want to change over to education, I click topics, uncheck my box, give it a moment to finish rendering here. Okay, I uncheck the box. Noticed it's gone, but it still looks like it's on the table. So that's one of those known problems that we run into. So how do I change that? Simply just go back and restart. It won't let you change it once you get past a certain point. If you run into that, just change what you have. Let's go with education attainment. Notice I want topics, education attainment. Take my geography. I'll still focus on the county level. We'll go down to Kentucky. Let's take Boone County this time and click search. Now what I have is in Boone County, 32% have a bachelor's degree. I can click on this first table, or I can click on any of the tables that are here. I notice we're right at time, Steve, so I'm gonna move to one more tool for those that can stick around.
Well, and I do have a question here too.
Yeah.
How will this work since we are getting migration from Texas to Kentucky, Hispanic? They would not be in the Census 2020. Any suggestions on how to find this population?
That is a great question. And as I mentioned earlier, people are born, people die, and people move. With the 2020 data, it counted people, what they call Census Day is April the 1st, 2020. So those individuals would have been counted in Texas, and then they moved to Kentucky. Well, how do we do them? That's where the American Community Survey comes in, is that you can follow those trends. If I come back to, I'll move out of where I am right now, because we were looking at education a moment ago. Let me take out my education. And if I go to my topics and select populations and people, if I take this first one and click search in the bottom right, there's population. You'll notice this says decennial. And as we scroll down, you can see here other tables. And Hispanic or Latino, notice that is from decennial, but I want estimates based on the years. If I go to my ACS demographic, I'm going to click customize table just to make it fit a little easier on the screen. And as I begin to scroll down, you'll notice here's race data. 2 or more races, Hispanic or Latino. This is how I would recommend, this is how that you track Hispanic or Latino moving in and out of an area, is that you look at your populations over the years, and you can probably see as a trend. One of the things that I believe is a challenge, let me go to my map, and Boone County is right up by Cincinnati. I'm going to move down, I think it's Lincoln, let me see, it's down here at the very bottom. Nope, it's Logan. Logan County seems to have a lot of migrant workers. Now, I do not know why. It's from a visit to Logan County that topic came up. They had a lot of migrant workers that came in. How do you count those individuals for the school systems? That is a tough question to answer, because the Census Bureau is only surveying a certain number of households each year in a particular geography. So you'll notice that that's gray, and Boone County actually has a color up above. You see where it says 1 year estimates? Logan County has a population less than 65,000. So if I change this to 5 year, I now have a color here and I have a color there. So keep that, keep that in mind. If you end up with an area that's grayed out, meaning data not available, check the upper left. Steve, I wish I could say, oh, this is where you go to see where an individual has moved from month to month to month. We're not tracking that. There's just no way we can keep up with each individual. One of the places that may be good is your school systems, because most parents are good about enrolling their children. And a lot of the migrant individuals, they will move into an area and someone has secured them housing, someone has secured them a job. And so that would be individuals to track down. So I am going to transition to one more tool. Steve, if we have another question, please ask me, because this is the bonus tool, guys, that I wanted to make sure we cover. If I go back to my census homepage, yes, sir.
The only other question we have is, can we share your contact information, or how can they contact you?
Yes, please feel free to share my contact information. I really don't mind helping individuals, groups, teams, whichever you best suit your needs. I also, the page we went to on the Census Academy, where they can request a training, that's another great way to reach someone, especially say somebody is in Ohio, may live up in the Cleveland area. If they fill that out, it's going to go to one of my teammates that covers Cleveland. We literally have the entire nation, to include Puerto Rico and all the island areas, covered with someone like myself. I volunteered for Hawaii. Don't know why I didn't get it. Anyway, so if we go to our Explore Data main, this one is called Census Business Builder, and I think some of you are going to like this. You can do a small business, or you can do a regional area. So we'll start with Census Business Builder. Remember, it's in the dugout. I'm going to put it on deck. Click in the teal box. It's now at bat. And oh, that was quick facts. Hang on, I went too fast. See, it happens to all of us, just because I'm trying to go as quickly as possible, Steve. So we hit everything we promised during the first hour. How was that?
That was great, Ron.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
so I'm going to continue with Census Business Builder. Steve, tell me when to stop because I've have this tool, and if time permits, we'll go to one more. But
Okay.
as I said, this is just an introduction, guys. Each one of these are in-depth tools, and I'm going to make this quick just to demonstrate. If I go to Regional Analyst, I need to put in what geography I'm looking at, and I'm going to type it in because if I click my location, you have to be on some sort of smartphone or a tablet. I'll put in Boone County. It asks me which Boone County. Boone County, Kentucky. Now, I'm just doing this as an example that I'm not trying to teach this tool by any means. The default is going to be the population by county, but since this is an economic tool, I can click on employer establishments. I can see how many establishments are in each county. Okay. Move it around just like Google Maps. If I want to map something different, what I can do is up here in the upper part where it says all employer establishments, I can click that drop down and I can change it. There are roughly 180 items that I can map on here. If I go to my consumers and residents and I'll go to socioeconomic and we want to look at population 16 and over in the labor force, I can select that variable. And now I can see my population 16 and over in the workforce. I'll focus in on this county. Let's see which county this is. It's a small county. It's not Scott, is it? Right here. Let's see, Robertson County. If I zoom in on Robertson County, you'll notice the color is constantly changing, and it's because it's only picking out what's on the map. That's why the legend changes. So now that I've selected Scott County, or excuse me, Robertson County, you can see 53.2% 16 and over in the labor force. You can compare that to the immediately surrounding counties. And if I want to see what's my high school population, simply click the star. And now I see the high school or I see the percent high school, all those counties. If I want, you'll see here on the left, create a region report. I click on create a region report. All of those items I said that I can map are now going to show up in one item that you can download, the upper right. And as I scroll down, you can begin to see all of the different things that are in here based on that county. So that county probably doesn't do a lot of things that would be on here. One of the things the Census Bureau prides itself on is we do not release data on an individual, a single household, or an individual business. So you're not going to see that. So if there's too few, that data gets suppressed. But this just gives you an idea of what's on the page. The very bottom of the report, I love this, consumer spending per household. Robertson County, typical household spends right at $80,000 a year. And this is where they're spending their money. So that is called Census Business Builder. That was just meant to be an introduction. This tool is called On the Map. And a great way to find it is just search on the census website. For time's sake, I won't show you how to go there. Let's go to Allen County. I can type in the word Allen and click search. It's going to give me every name, county, city with the name Allen in it. If I want to narrow this down, I can click here, go to counties and search. Now I only see the Allen counties in the nation. Allen County, Kentucky. Wonderful place. If I perform an analysis, remember this is just a demonstration. This is not meant to be an instruction at this point. I'm going to go where people work. And if I click my area profile and choose, I'll just go with 2019 and let's go with all jobs, not the primary job. We're going to go with all jobs. In that county, what you're going to see over here are the industry sectors, age, earnings, the race. This is showing where are the jobs located. I'm going to turn off the point overlay and just have a thermal map. So in Allen County, most of the jobs are around Scottsville and then out east. So you can see up toward the lake, you have a few. I can go over here to the right-hand side, and as I move down, what if I just want to look at age 29 or younger? So these are workers. This is where those workers are working. If I want to reset that table, I just click Reset Table. Notice it takes me right back to what I had. And now I can see the sectors. I want to see, where are my utility jobs? I click Utilities. Notice there's so few utility jobs. They all happen to be centered in the middle of the county. What if I want to go down to, who's our big employer? Education, that's a big employer. This is going to show you more than likely where your schools are located, to include Head Start, preschool, all of those type of items. Notice, once again, you're centered here. So this is a tool I really like, because if I change my settings and I want to look at my inflow and outflow and click Go, this is where my workers are coming from. In Allen County, every day, every business day, they have 2,300 people commute into the county to work. You have 2,500 people. That circle means they live and work in the county. And you have 5,500 people leaving every day to go work somewhere else. Well, where are they going? If I come back to here and I look at my distance and direction and click Go, I can now see which direction. You'll have a radar chart up here. Most everybody's going to the northeast, some to the northwest, and a few to the southwest. That's the direction of travel to go to work. Steve, let me wrap it up there. Just because of time's sake, I did want to mention one last time about Census Academy and the data dissemination. Myself, you can see the picture here in the bottom. This is everybody, to include our bosses. That's how few of us cover the entire nation, but we're there. We have you covered, guys. So don't hesitate to reach out, ask Data Steve. Feel free to share my personal email, phone number. I really don't mind you calling. Steve, any final questions?
No, I'm not seeing any. Does anyone have any additional questions? We have quite a few that have stayed with us through the
Oh, that's great.
extra time.
Okay.
So, does anyone have any questions? In the chat box, or raise your hand and I'll give you the mic, or try to give you the mic. Sometimes I'm challenged with Zoom, but I would have no problem to try.
I saw a question there about, I have a state grant. I actually do quite a bit with nonprofits, and so I'm not the best grant writer, but if I understand what you're looking for, a lot of times I can help you. You saw some of the things that we did with maps and imagery. Sometimes in a grant, a picture is definitely worth thousands of dollars. And so sometimes I might be able to create an image or visualization that will help you. So not just a data table, sometimes we can make that data come alive. So Steve, with that, um, I'll go ahead and just let you close us out, you or Ashley, whichever.
Okay. Ashley, you have anything you want to share or say? With that, we thank everyone for joining us today. We'll continue to try to have K-SPAN workshops on various topics. And we thank Ron today for sharing with us. It was a great presentation, and I'll share the recording as well as he sent me some slides, and I'll share those with the participants as well. And I thank you again, Ron. It's been a real pleasure.
You're
and
welcome.
I really enjoyed it.
All right, anytime. See you guys later.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, everyone.